Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm just setting up our live stream for today. And let's see if it looks like I'm live streaming. Let's see, there it is. Okay. And I'm going to change the view today. So welcome, everybody. This is Margaret Lynch Ranieri, and we are having our Unblocked series. Today is Chakra 3, where everything changes. Thank you, Karen. I have people here in the Zoom room with me, and we are live streaming to YouTube, my favorite place to put up lots of videos and have you guys have videos that you can watch there for me. And if you've never been to my YouTube channel, there are videos from me from like 2008 that people still watch. And I look a lot different than I do now. And I probably talk differently than I do now. And so on my YouTube channel, since I'm live streaming to YouTube, there's lots and lots of videos that represent sort of this broad base of work using a technique called tapping, also built in a lot of hypnosis, hypnotherapy, but that range from doing a quick like life hack with tapping, really short, fast videos to get you unstuck out of the fight or flight and back into your most powerful self. We're going to talk about that a lot today because we're talking about third chakra today in our Unblocked series. But I also have longer videos there, which are more like a longer recipe. I mean, as best as you can't really do a session with somebody, you know, when you're alone making a video, but a recipe that you can follow that's maybe 10 minutes long to get a bigger impact. And then, of course, you may know that one of my favorite things to do in the world is to train coaches in ways of doing an entire session. Because if you can't do a whole session and get a real change, it's really hard to call yourself a coach, right? And I mean that with love. I mean that with love. Techniques alone do not make us a coach. And this is all really important as we get into third chakra today. So yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our third in the series for our Unblocked series. What does Unblocked mean? Well, that is the name of my Hay House book. And we're diving into the fourth chakra. This book goes through the 4 lower chakras, because that is where all of our empowerment energy comes from. We talked about the first chakra already, that is often filled with fear and it's not safe and all the rules about that. And that's going to show up again today in the third chakra. We talked about the second chakra in our last live stream just a couple of days ago. Those videos are here for you on YouTube. And at the second chakra, it's where we have our passion, our desire, our fuel for life, our life force energy. And that rises into the third chakra. So we arrive today at third chakra. Every chakra builds on the previous one. And these lower chakras are the most difficult to work with. That's why most people want to focus on meditation and being loving and visualizing, all good things. Except that the harder work does get done at the first and second chakra. And at the third chakra, we start to see the problems created by not doing the harder work at the first and second chakra. So I also have an assessment for you today. I'm going to walk you through our 6 assessment questions. My color copy came out weird out of my printer. It's supposed to be beautiful yellow for the third chakra. Yeah, old school, I still print things. And you can get that assessment. I want you to have that assessment because assessments are really important. So we'll also walk you through the third chakra assessment. Awesome. Someone here says the questions are great because assessments really help you powerfully, whether you're working on yourself or like many of you here, thinking about or engaged in helping other people, whether it's as a coach or as a consultant, an advisor, or as a therapist. An assessment really helps us get started. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. So are we ready to start, everybody? Are we ready to dive into the third chakra? So in the book Unblocked, which came out with Hay House a couple of years ago, if you don't have it, please go on Amazon and pick up a copy. I also wanted to mention that as you get to the third chakra, you may feel something like what Hay House said to me, what my editor at Hay House said to me when going through the drafts of the book. And she said, it feels like a completely different person is writing each of these chapters. They have a different feel, a different energy. You're talking different. And I said, exactly. At each of these chakras, we as a coach are holding a different energy. And that's, again, what makes the lower chakra work different. And so why do we do that? Why is it important to have a totally different way of operating from first chakra to second chakra to third chakra, and then a different again at fourth chakra? And it's really about, do you want to get deeper, more meaningful, more powerful results in a way that actually show up in someone's life? And so my criticism as an engineer 18 years ago coming into personal growth was, well, people are doing lots of it and they're reading lots of books. I see a big section, right? Remember Barnes and Nobles, remember bookstores? You'd go in there and it'd be like, wow, the personal growth section is huge. But why aren't people changing that much? Why don't they actually show up different, sound different, act different? Why do sometimes even our therapists will say to us, well, I've had anxiety for 20 years and I've never really been able to resolve it. And so why has some of these techniques, even the best we have in personal growth and therapy, sort of done some work, done some healing, but not led to real change in our life? And for me as an engineer, that is a problem that needs to be solved. And so I have endeavored to get the actual results where people show up and act differently and seem differently out in the real world, which is the third chakra. Because at the third chakra, we now not just have this sort of feeling inside, this impulse inside, this sense of our worth inside. At the third chakra, it starts to beam out. The color is yellow. And I want you to think of this sun at your solar plexus shining. So the whole, I keep hitting my lamp. If I have a lamp off camera, shining and knocking over lamps and kicking down doors for everyone to see. And so at the third chakra, it's like where the rubber meets the road. Is the work that I've done really going to show up in my real life? And that's why we have to know and anticipate exactly what those issues are going to be. Because at the third chakra, someone can look very stuck. They're not moving forward. They're not showing up differently. They're not having a hard conversation, maybe to set a boundary or to make a real change in their life or to ask for what they want. They are stuck. And when they are stuck, they don't know why. And so if you are a student of personal growth, human nature, or a coach in particular, you have to be fascinated and interested, not only in techniques, this pop-up screen here, but in what gets people stuck and unstuck. And that's where we start talking about the third chakra. You'll see on my YouTube channel, there's lots of videos about this because it's my favorite topic. It's when it all comes down to it. Am I showing up differently? So the other thing I wanted to say about Unblocked, if you're listening, if you have a therapy background, is that my husband, Dr. David Ranieri, who's a psychologist and a psychoanalyst, writes all the commentary in the book. And so each of the big chapters, like the third chakra chapter we're talking about today, which is sort of an exhaustive deep dive into the third chakra and the energies that are there and how different you have to be as a coach in the third chakra. Each of these big chapters, he adds his commentary to help our therapy background folk really connect. What is Margaret talking about and how does it relate? How does it connect in the therapy field? So I want you to really check that out if you have that background or you're interested in those kinds of connections. So let's talk about third chakra in a little more detail. I have my notes here. I feel like we're just kind of getting started. and wanted to lay out where we're going, but I want to start to jump into some of this real third chakra work and the assessment. Okay. And so again, why do we do assessments? Why am I giving you these assessments? And just to review again, assessment gives you a clear start, a way to start with clarity about your client or about yourself, in a way that's like, what's going on underneath the things they are complaining about. It shows you where to go to get started, where some of the issues are, where the roots of the issues really are. I want you to always have the word counterintuitive written down on your piece of paper to remind you this is counterintuitive work. You have to know where the issues are, what doors to open to find the roots of the issue, what's going on, and then what is needed, like what is the block that we want to unblock, and finally, what is needed as far as a new energy. So when we start to look at third chakra, first chakra, second chakra, third chakra, fourth chakra, the other piece of that's different about working in this chakra frame is that it allows you to go very counterintuitively directly to where the sources of the problems are in a way that is going to get bigger results. It allows you to go there and to have a sense of where you're going. And so many of you have already noticed and signed up that I am doing a 4-part training starting next week, which I'm going to go more deeply into opening these doorways. What doorways do we have to open? Because there's 3 at every of the 4 lower chakras. So more on that next week. But as far as today, it's not just about clearing away the roots of the issue, the blocks, but also how do I now take this chakra energy and fill it, recharge it, have it work the way it was meant to work. And each of the 3 lower chakras are very different from each other. So when we come to the third chakra, as we come to today, we're building on the issues of the first chakra and the second chakra. The difference at the third chakra is that this is, again, where it shows up. It shows up in a like third-party perspective. Other people can look at you and say, wow, you seem different. You seem more present. You seem more calm. You seem more happy. You know, I'm seeing you when I look in your eyes, and you're talking differently. You're acting differently. And that builds on the first and second chakra. So I'm going to talk a little bit in a second about what happens when we're not doing that, right? When we're holding back, when we're playing small, when we're procrastinating, when we're not making changes. But when we look at the third chakra, because it's where things become visible to other people, this is what makes it tricky and trickier to get to the roots of it and trickier to uncover. It also makes it trickier to not get blindsided or sort of attracted in to very surface solutions like, well, just take this strategy, or let me just explain it to you again, then maybe you will take the action. Let me give you some mindset around that. Well, don't think of it that way, think of it this way, and then you'll take the action. Or have lots of accountability, and I'm going to check on you next week and make sure you took that action. And to try to get someone to show up and act differently without getting to the root issue, which is not sustainable. Sometimes we can push somebody through, but when they're really stuck and they never really know why, they're resisting taking an action, it's unsustainable when we get sucked into some of those other techniques. And by the way, I am going to say that I have seen people in mindset type of frameworks, right? So other people's programs, other people's masterminds, other things, you know, events that I'm visiting or speaking at. And I have seen people be really shamed by a mindset approach. Because if everyone else is shifting magically out of procrastination and you're not able to, you're the one who's still stuck, I have seen that argument actually shame people. Like, okay, wow, This person is saying that their 10-year-old daughter used this mindset and got out of their own way, yet I can't. So we want to be really careful about bringing in mindset when somebody is really stuck. Like, again, love mindset. There's mindset built into everything I do, but it's not the level of where the problem is. The mindset is just repeating the problem that it's at the lower chakras. It's like the recording of the problem that is actually at the lower chakras. So because at the third chakra, this is where we become visible. So I want you to write that down, that word, more visible. This is where the problems start to come in. This is where the problems start to come in. You even heard it at the first chakra assessment. Some people say like, yeah, I feel like I'm invisible, or I'd rather be invisible. And this is where the fear at the first chakra moves into the third chakra with all sorts of rules about what is safe for me to be seen as. Seen as, how do I feel about myself? Am I confident or am I self-doubting? Which one was safer in my family? To be seen as going after something because that means I think I deserve to. Was that safe in my family? To be like, you know what? I think I can do it. I think I can do bigger things than maybe any of you people have. I believe in myself. Being seen as even asking for something. Was it safe in my family? What are the rules I learned growing up, whether it was safe or not to, as we talked about in the second chakra, ask for something if someone might instantly accuse us of being needy or weak. You see how the first and second chakra come together here? If I'm afraid that if I push back and set a boundary, someone is going to say, you know, you're an angry woman. Or you are arrogant, you are pushy, you are selfish, then I'm not going to allow myself to ever ask for things, to ever set boundaries, to ever say no, to ever push back. And so it's the third chakra that's like, how am I going to be seen? How are people going to look at me? Are they going to like it? What are they going to say? And so this is a really hard truth, which is that the vast majority of what people are doing is motivated by staying safe. The vast majority of what we are doing, when we start to uncover and start to look back, I've had people say, yeah, Margaret, the 3 PhDs I got, I now realize was a way for me to stay safe because you had to be proven. And because everything in this world that you want to have and to be and to do is going to come through and with other people. At some level, if you're working on a website for a year, somebody's going to see that at some point. A lot of people are going to see it possibly, right? That's our hope. And so the what will they think of me is so unconscious and so quick. But when you feel anxiety about taking an action, there's a huge piece of that, which is I am going to be seen and evaluated and scrutinized is often our expectation. And they're going to say, I'm what in that moment? They're going to say, I'm what? What about that moment of visibility am I not going to feel safe? And, you know, I wish I said it like, oh, I just channeled all this information. No, as a new coach, I was signing up clients all the time, marketing myself, you know, tapping through my constant fears and marketing myself because I needed the money. I was a single mom, and I was getting stuck with them. I was doing all this good work I had learned from the tapping technique. Well, there must be more trauma. And we get to that, they're going to be fixed. And they weren't. they would come back and feel better. There'd be tears, we would move stuff. You're amazing, Margaret. I feel so different. But then in their life, they still weren't making the change they needed to make. And so I had to figure it out. And that's where I really start talking about, like, you have to know so that you know where to go. And that's why I talk about like opening a portal, opening a doors. You're going to hear me talk about that a lot with Chakra Intuitive, because they don't know why. And how do you find out why someone's not doing something when they're not doing something? You can't figure out what's going on. You know, if they have fear of elevators, you know, well, if they go in an elevator, they feel fear, right? So I can get that. But if I'm just avoiding doing it, how do I find out, right? How do I find out? So at third chakra, and I just don't ever hear anyone talking about this, why I love teaching about third chakra, is thinking about most of our actions are quite automatic. We don't have as much control over our actions as we think. When people procrastinate, it's one of the big unsolved mysteries for most people. Like, we don't know why we procrastinate. It always feels mysterious. We don't know why we avoid setting boundaries, although sometimes we do know why. Most of our actions, again, are built around, even though our mind's telling us there's 8,000 reasons to do all these things, they're built around trying to stay safe, trying to stay safe. And it's why we can do lots of healing work, but somehow the behavior doesn't change. It's where tapping people hit a snag, right? It's where I hit a snag. It's where progress stops. All hit a snag. The accountability. If you're a coach and you've ever had a client show up for the first 2 sessions and then right around session 3 or 4 kind of disappear, am I the only one that's happened to? Please give me some love on the chat if you've noticed that. Yeah. And because what I teach, which I'm sure there's people out there who this doesn't make them happy, but that you have to expect that at around session 3 or 4 is when people hit a wall, because you are helping them change, right? And so all of a sudden they're hitting a point of, I'm going to have to start to show up, do differently, and they will start to disappear, right? So, and time is flying, you know, time is flying. There are people on this planet who should be more visible, who should be owning their power, who should be taking on the mantle of being the messenger of what they do. And there are people like you who attend these kinds of calls, who actually have a positive intention for other people, for healing, for help, for supporting other people, clients, entire communities of people. And so I want you to know that time is flying. And if you have arrived at this call and at this moment in your life where you are sitting on, you are sitting on years of skill and experience and knowledge that could help other people, but you're being held back by something, then this is my call to action for you. The world needs you. It needs your third chakra to shine. And so these for me are really, these are solving issues that I'm really, really passionate about, because there's lots of people who out there who don't have the best intentions, who are willing to put themselves everywhere, right? Unabashedly, and they don't feel guilt, and they don't go into self-doubt. They don't go into shame. They bypass all of that with a sense of, often a sense of narcissism. And so for the people who are actually helpers, I want you to feel this third chakra charge, call to action, that the time is going by and this is what you need to do, right? This is one of the ways, again, my publisher said, you sound like a different person at third chakra. Third chakra energy is let's do it, right? Let's pull together our courage, which is third chakra, and let's do it. The time is now. It takes courage to look down the 3 portals of the first chakra that I'll be teaching next week. It takes way more courage to look down the 3 portals, to open and see what's in there, of the second chakra, even more courage. And at the third chakra, we move into a different energy of moving forward and opening the portals of the future and finding out why aren't I going into this future moment? So I want to talk a little bit about how procrastination and feeling stuck and being stuck and people saying I feel stuck is a third chakra energy. Because what is it doing? Your third chakra is forcing you to not take action, because that's the action center. That's where I do things. Your third chakra and your mind together are directing you towards other tasks, because I have seen some amazing action taking place when someone's procrastinating just over here, right? Anyone ever done that? The closets have never been so clean. The stains on the clothing have never been so scrubbed. You know what I'm going to do? Take on a laundry project this week, right? And so when we are procrastinating, our third chakra is saying, you know what would be better for you to do right now? Take on that project, help that person. Who needs help? I would love to help you. And the third chakra is also very aware of dopamine. So, you know, I love talking about the neurobiology of this. The third chakra is like, how does my brain get dopamine? Well, it's by helping somebody in this moment, not by doing this thing over here that for some reason I'm procrastinating against. So when you think about what is actually happening, what is the function of procrastination? It's very similar to the function of guilt in a different way. Guilt is a third chakra energy. It stops us in our tracks from a future moment, a moment that hasn't happened yet, that feels dangerous to the self, that feels like I am going to be vulnerable. And when anyone says that, they don't mean vulnerable to, you know, receiving more. They mean vulnerable to attack, to scrutiny, to pushback, to annihilation. Who do you think you are? That is an annihilation of who you are trying to be in that moment. And so procrastination, third chakra stuckness, guilt, like, ooh, do I deserve it though? Self-doubt that starts to spin. That is fear spinning in the third chakra, fear spinning in the mind, fear spinning in ways that it's like, I have to stop myself from this future moment. And it's very unconscious. It's very unconscious. It takes some questioning. Yeah, so many people here in the Zoom room are really giving me some, you know, just validating exactly what I'm saying. So here's how I want you to think about third chakra, because it all sounds good. Why don't I just get it done? Why don't I just get up there and introduce myself? Why don't I just write that email? Why don't I just set a boundary? And so here's how I want you to think about it, because it's more serious than that. That one, what your body is protecting you from, your nervous system that knows, is protecting you from, first of all, is a searing, barbecuing, if you will, a searing moment of naked evaluation. I will be evaluated in this searingly naked moment. Unprotected, vulnerable, exposed. That's what my body's expecting, scrutiny. And secondly, it's not just the searing evaluation, you know, because we freeze in that moment. It's like, here it comes. Secondly, is the pushback from people, from the tribal energy, right? Aggression. When people say to me, oh, you know, I can imagine that people are going to say, you know, who do you think you are? Or laugh at me or ridicule me. That's aggressive. That's aggression. That's hostility. Aggression, the kind of criticism that destroys, that shames, that says you're not good enough. the destruction of saying in so many words, you don't deserve who you are trying to be right now. You don't deserve who you are trying to be right now. I can't say it any more succinct, but I have done this with thousands of people on group calls for 18 years, sometimes weekly. And I will ask them, we'll do a third chakra exercise. And I will say to them, there you are in this moment, and you are, doing your thing, you're showing up, you're doing the thing that you're holding back from doing, and you actually look really confident, and you're there. And I describe a beautiful moment. And then I'd say, describe what you, in your mind's eye, see the audience doing. What are people saying? And it is always, they're asking me to prove it. They're saying, who do you think you are? Some are yelling at me, turning their back on me, attacking me. And I feel, why did I do this? I'm now doubting myself. Or they're challenging me. Prove that you know enough. Prove that you know enough to be there. Prove that you know enough to have that confidence in that moment. And so what our body expects for pushback in a third chakra moment is profound. And I've even found that with some people who have, who've been shamed in that way, they have been wounded around their power their whole lives, that if the closer you get to getting them to actually do it, where you could work with them for a long time and they finally say, I think I can do it. Just that can trigger them to say, I woke up the next day laying on the couch and I couldn't get up. I felt like shame and hating myself and crying. And I don't know where that came from, Margaret. And I'd say, I know where it came from, because you had the audacity to say in our session, just in front of me, something that might lead you to taking an action. Maybe I can do it. And your body went, hells to the no, hell no, and hit you with that backlash, hit you with that shutdown of your energy. And it really is a problem. It really is a problem, because this could be someone who, people that I've worked with, people like you, who are sitting on years of experience and knowledge and compassion and raw know-how and time and energy that have something so amazing to give, yet they get stuck. And so what's going on under the third chakra there? It's fear. It's always fear. There's fear underneath procrastination. There's fear underneath the things that we're doing and not doing. Sometimes anger too, right? And that's the first part of the problem at the third chakra, is I am just stuck in fear. I am just afraid. I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of being attacked. I'm afraid of not being good enough and then being attacked, right? And being shamed, being annihilated, being ignored. Another really painful one is I'm afraid to find out that actually nobody cares, even if I do my best. That's another big one I hear. But at the third chakra, there's a second problem. There's a second problem. Okay, so since Catherine asked the question, I will go there. Why does it appear that men have less of this? If you have noticed that in your life, I have 3 sisters and 4 brothers, and I've noticed it in my family, right? They are just like, well, I just pushed forward and asked for a raise, even though it's my second day on the job, right? And my sisters and I are like, I would have had to prove myself for 5 more years before I said that. And so, yes, there is in general terms a big difference. There is a video on my YouTube channel called The 7 Dangers of Growing Up Female. And if you are a woman or you're a man and you want to work with women, or you have women in your life that you want to understand better, I would watch that video. Right, and find out what is in our backpack of bricks that is different when we show up, right? And if it resonates, please comment on that video, because I'd like to make sure more people can see it. Yeah. So there's fear going on underneath. We have to get to what that fear is in real terms. We have to respect it as not a little thing. You know, if it's a little thing, usually we can push through and take the action, right? It's like, I was a little scared, but I did it anyway. But when we're really stuck, right? But the second part of it is at the third chakra, it's your action center. And so at the third chakra, we also need a new model. So it's like, well, now I don't feel as afraid of asking for a raise or setting a boundary or standing up. I really do think I deserve it, but I've never seen it done. I have no model for that. I only have picturing it going badly. And so at third chakra, you are a different coach. You are a different therapist because you're challenging action and behavior, but you're also recognizing I have to bring something. I have to bring a mentorship model, a how-to model, a what could it look like that will feel safe, right? An actual new model of this is what it looks like. And let me tell you what the model always involves. It involves leadership energy. And for women, I like to call it feminine leadership energy, right? Some of you have heard me talk about that, but it involves how do I take a leadership energy into this brand new action, this brand new thing that I am going to do? Because when we are stepping up in a bigger way and being visible, and even if it's just like, I put my website up, right? It's a leadership moment. And we're holding the mantle of people interacting with this new way of being and acting. We want to do that with leadership energy. What if it's a hard conversation with a boss or a partner, setting a boundary, saying what I do want, what I don't want? Leadership energy. And so as I teach the chakra work and teach it to coaches over these many years and teach the classes I'm going to be teaching next week, particularly women say, well, I can't now show up at work and be angry about how I've been treated all these years, because then I'm going to be completely humiliated and shut down, right? Because now you're being an angry, crazy woman or whatever, or you're being emotional, right? And so we push that button and the woman shuts down. And so, yes, at third chakra, we need a model that is leadership energy. How do I come into these situations and be a version of myself that can stand in this energy, stand in this new moment, deal with something unpleasant that happens with calm leadership energy, as opposed to getting kicked back into space, tumbling backwards. I doubt everything. I shouldn't have even done this. People don't like it. Everyone's mad at me, and I spin. And so third chakra requires addressing the fear and a new model. Whereas first chakra requires getting at the nervous system level, that neurobiology level, addressing the fear, filling the first chakra to make it stronger. The second chakra involves moving powerful reactionary emotions and coming into more balance with those emotions. So we don't have a conversation, 2 words get out and burst into tears because we've been holding on to this anger for 25 years, right? We move emotions so that at third chakra, the action, the words we arrive at have a clear, boundaried, solid leadership energy. And it's so beautiful because for the past 18 years, I can't tell you how many times clients and now coaches since 2013 I've been training have said to me, Margaret, I went into this hard conversation and I expected arguing, complaining, negotiating, pushback. Sometimes it's with a teenager, boss, partner, whoever. And something changed. They were like, okay, that makes sense. And I couldn't believe it. How do you explain that? And it's showing up with that leadership energy, that solid, grounded at the first chakra, unflappable. I am certain this is where I'm coming from. That second chakra power. There is authority in my voice. I matter. And this is what I want. And what I want too has to be brought into this equation. And this is how I honestly feel. And at the third chakra, I show up presenting myself in a way that is always win, 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 win. That is always our intention. Win, 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 win. You'll hear me talk about that a little bit more next week, right? Leadership energy means I intend the highest good, and I come from that, right? Even if it means forever, me and this other person are going to agree to disagree, it's for the highest good. That's my intention, right? It's not to win and have someone lose. That's beautiful leadership energy. And then the second model, yes. And so in that model, it's like, how can I do this thing without being shamed, without losing, without being embarrassed, without being attacked? How can I do this new thing, even if it's just one little step? And so third chakra is super important. So, because again, this is where we show up. So I'm going to walk you through this assessment. Again, you can get this assessment. And then we'll do a little bit of third chakra tapping today, okay? So again, 6 questions. Let me make sure I think I'm correct on that. 6 questions. Sometimes I sneak in an extra question. The first one, ready? And again, you're going to measure how true these feel on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning, oh my God, that's totally true for me. I avoid getting attention or being the center of attention. And I feel uncomfortable receiving praise. There's a lot in there. Getting attention, being the center of attention, feel uncomfortable receiving praise, positive attention. So if that feels true, that is a 10 for you, right? Which is the most really blocked we can be. If that's a 1 or a 2, that means it's not true. More third chakra energy there for you. That's great, right? This is why we do an assessment. Question number 2. When I think about taking an action that will make me stand out, I freeze or agonize about how people will react on a scale of 1 to 10. And so sometimes these 2 questions will be at odds. Like someone's like, no, I feel pretty comfortable standing out, but, you know, for me and many other coaches that had a corporate career before, this is a really interesting one because I was very comfortable standing up and doing presentations in corporate. I knew my stuff. I had been in there for 18 years, right? I was a chemical engineer, for God's sakes, right? People assume you're a rocket science. And I was always like, oh, I'm just going to go with it. When I came into coaching, I was terrified to present, terrified to make video. So it depends, right? Okay, question number 3. Thank you, guys. Lots of 6s and 7s in here. When I think about taking an action, make me stand out, I freeze or agonize. That's, you know, that's above a 5, right? And we've gotten some 10s as well. Okay, here's a hard one. I'm sorry, you're welcome. But here's number 3. When I think about setting boundaries, I often end up feeling guilty or being guilted by others, so I don't bother. If that feels true, that's a 10. We're getting some quick 10s. Some quick 10s. Okay, and so some of you are 1. So this is why we assess it, because you'll find that some people will say, oh, I'm really good at boundaries. I set boundaries all the time. And sometimes there's a different third chakra issue, which is, we talked about this a little bit at the second chakra, which is I'm like a boundary person, and I feel, you know, I feel attacked from different fronts. So I'm always setting boundaries because I don't trust people. So we're always trying to see, like, where are we in this scale, right? Okay, so we're getting a mix of low numbers and people who saying they can set boundaries, and high numbers around 7s where people can't. And of course, please comment here on YouTube because we do read all of your comments, and we want to know how you feel. So question number 4, when I try standing up for myself or advocating for what I deserve, what I want, or what I don't want, I start to feel guilty or doubt my value. If that's true, that's a 10. I start to feel guilty or doubt my value. It's kind of the like, I'm raising my prices, which say I think I'm good enough, and then in my head it's like, am I good enough though? Like I start the negotiation process of am I good enough? Yeah, so great comment from someone named Anna here. Anna, 5, because it depends. I can set boundaries at work, but it's harder with family and friends. Ain't that the truth, right? Because although work will guilt you, your family and friends feel like that's, totally, that's like totally in the family paradigm wheelhouse. They will guilt you at a level of expertise, right? Okay, awesome. Let's see, number 5. This is where I'm going to get some of you that are in my age group. I was raised to believe it's better to give, sacrifice, make others happy, that I shouldn't be selfish. Does that feel true? If so, that's a 10. I was raised to believe it's always better to give and sacrifice, to make others happy, that I shouldn't be selfish. And for women, since someone asked the question, difference between women and men, this is a big difference too, because the other side of it is to not make people unhappy, right? So for women, it's against the rules to make someone not happy. So making other people happy, even when it involves not listening to our own our own dislikes, our own, I don't feel comfortable with that. We're not supposed to make someone else unhappy. Yeah, so that can be in there too, but better to give than receive. And so what does it mean if you start asking for more, asking for more, asking for more? That's where the word selfish comes in, right? People are going to say, I'm selfish. Okay, final one. So getting lots of 10s on that one. Someone said, ugh, this was so true in how I was raised. Yeah, wanting anything equals selfish. And here's the thing, is that what's the set point on that? There's a set point on that from your family that says asking for more than this is selfish. Is this $1 in your savings account? Or is this, the average corporate pay? Or is this not having debt? How dare you not have debt? We all have debt. So if you don't even want to have debt like the rest of us, who do you think you are? And so there is a set point around what is safe and what is not safe. And it's kind of easy to find because you're usually living at it. The amount of money that you have, the amount of time off that you have, the amount of compliments you get, the amount of relaxation time that you get, the amount of joy and love is all usually within your set point. Otherwise, you will sabotage it. Yeah. Okay, last question. When I think about taking bold action, I feel like it needs to be perfect first. I have high standards and I don't want to be embarrassed, on a scale of 1 to 10. Yeah, so pretty high, which is common for people who are natural achievers. But there is a set point on those high standards. So perfectionism is a sort of a more advanced way of procrastinating. We think of it that way. It's a specialized form of procrastinating. It's not good enough yet. So I need to figure it out more or make myself better or more. Yeah, someone said 10 and it's totally unrealistic. The other way that you can look at this question is, what happens if you make a mistake? What happens to the years and years and years that you have put in to do everything right? when one mistake happens, especially if it's a little more visible. And so what we often find is that we lose contact with all the other good in that moment of that one mistake, right? It's like I lost my ground. My legs got cut out from under me. I now have no value because of that one mistake, right? So it's another side of that. It's very, yeah, discouraging. Yeah, for sure. Okay, and so that is the third chakra assessment. And what you got to see here again is you see how different people have a varying, like some are positive, some are okay, some are really hard. And the power of having that assessment to have a clear start with somebody and to really know where the issues are going to be. When we get into third chakra, it's like, are they overusing their third chakra? Protect, protect, protect. I'm going to guard against myself. I'm going to say, you can't make me do it. Or are they underusing their third chakra energy in that, like, I just have to give and a give and give and a give and a give. I can't set a boundary at all, for example. Yeah. The losing contact with the good. Yes, thank you. Someone is repeating that as well. Yeah, I have to step up to the plate and own the mistake, but a part of me will always feel like crap. So, you know, as I've got one more of these to teach in this Unblocked series on the fourth chakra, and we're going to talk about exactly that, which is what happens after I make a mistake and how long does this go for? How long does this go for? How long does this go for? And the time that is lost reviewing the mistake. And again, that kind of self-scrutiny, inner critic, after the fact, before the fact, is really just fear. It is fear. And it's like, never make that mistake again. So I'm going to remind you of that mistake 80,000 times. So third chakra work is, for me, what was missing, you know, when I first started, I had to learn to be more courageous about using tapping and holding the space for really strong emotions at the second chakra, even though people were like, we shouldn't do this. I shouldn't talk about how angry I am. Had to be courageous in doing that. And I had to learn at the third chakra that if I didn't do the specialized work to find out what was going on around this actions we weren't taking, the words we weren't saying, then I couldn't get people to act. I couldn't get people to take action. And when there's no action, there's no results. So for those of you who are coaches, when there's no action, there is no result. And we get paid and get testimonials based on results, right? Based on results. I'm also going to be talking about, you know, in general, and we're about to do some tapping on the third chakra, so don't worry, that's coming, because I know we're coming to the end here. And yesterday I stayed on a little bit later for those of you in the Zoom room. If you have any questions or comments, we started getting into some real great laser coaching session questions the other day here in the Zoom room after we stopped live streaming. So I can do that for a few minutes again today. But when we think about, you know, third chakra and being a coach, and if there's no action, then we're not coaching, because we can't get the results. So we don't feel confident, and we can't get referrals because people aren't saying, holy cow, what did you do to Mary? She's showing up differently. And that's a really important piece of it. The other piece of it is, am I solving a $25 problem, a $100 problem, or am I solving a really valuable problem? And one of the things we talked about at the second chakra, and it comes up again here in action so clearly, is that when you can solve the problem of, I don't feel passion or joy or aliveness, or I'm like freezing myself because it has to be perfect and I can't keep doing that, time is running out, or I have to take this action, and when I don't, it's costing me money or it's hurting my job. Now you are solving more valuable problems. That's not a $25 problem. That's not a $100 one session problem. right? You're solving more real problems. I said at the end of the last live stream, you, like your clients, like everyone, we are real people with histories, with dynamic systems, with lots going on, with lots of hidden fears, with emotions that we've buried. We are dynamic, right? I like to use the word dynamic instead of saying we are disasters, right? Lovingly. We're a bit of a disaster, and own it. That means you are dynamic. You are real. You are a real person with a real history and real things that you want and real fears. And so using the chakras as a lens, we get to do work that is more real, that gets the change that people want. That again, I'm not solving a $25 problem. And sometimes when we learn a technique, as powerful as tapping is, I love it, or hypnotherapy, where somebody was like, can we do a 1-session stop smoking hypnosis? And I was like, I don't want to do stop smoking hypnosis for the rest of my life. What kind of problem are we solving? And the lens of the chakras means I look at my clients as more fully dynamic humans. And I'm not going to go, why haven't I gotten anything done? I told them what to do. I'm going to recognize the dynamic level of that humans are with all of our levels and work at that level with people who are hungry for that. People are hungry for this kind of work. That's why I'm going into this next series next week, where it's really for coaches and showing all the doors we open to get into these chakras. Yeah. So in the way that I've been talking, I'm using third chakra energy. I'm like, let's get charged up. Time is running out. You can do this. And so I just want you to put your hands on your third chakra, right on your solar plexus, right under the boobs, ladies, right on your solar plexus, and just put your hands there for a minute and feel not only who you are, but who do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What do you want to be doing, being, and having in the time that you have? The being, the doing, the having, because time doesn't stop for us. Even though you've made mistakes and you have fears and you have doubts, that's all in there. But who is it that you want to be? How do you want to feel in this chapter you're creating? Because we're either creating the same week over and over, or we are creating our next chapter. So I'm going to do some third chakra question tapping with you, because someone here said, I feel my energy drain, right, when I go into these questions. And that will happen if it feels too overwhelming. So let's jump in and we'll do some third chakra tapping, okay? The truth is, I'm kind of all over the place. Yeah, that's me. I have a lot of fears. Don't like to admit it. Somebody who I need to mute here. Team, can you mute that? Okay, thank you. I'm a little all over the place. I have insecurities. Sometimes I really doubt myself. Sometimes I'm really afraid. And yet other times, I know what I know. I know some stuff. And I can be really brave. I have been really brave in my life. You people have no idea. I have been really strong. I have come through some stuff. And I have been incredibly giving. I'm definitely not perfect. Far from perfect. Thank goodness, because perfect is boring. And there are things that I want to do, to be, to have. And I still want them. Even with all my fears, all my self-doubts, all my hidden weaknesses, there's things I want to do and be. And there is a part of me, there is a side of me that remembers, that holds on to who I am at my core, my true self, when the fear is burned and stripped away, in moments of clarity, the gifts that I really do have, the impact I can really make. Maybe not become Oprah or Deepak Chopra, but the change I really can make, being the best of me, even with my faults and fears. So even with my insecurities, I want to do it. Even with my fear of getting made fun of, there's something I still want to do. Even with my weaknesses, my secret flaws, I still want this. And what I want matters. I also matter. My gifts matter. My experience matters. My heart, my compassion, it matters, especially now. I have a lot to give. And I want to be that version of me that isn't just sacrificing, but is giving through highest leadership with my authority, skills, brilliance, that leads as me. The hero energy in me, concentrated at my third chakra, poking me that time is going by, compelling me, drawing me forward to be human and be the best of me and enjoy every step of the way. I want to be the next version of me tomorrow, next week, this year. And I can do it. Even when I'm scared and clueless, I have what it takes. And there's a part of me that remembers that. I have what it takes. I honor me today. I bless me today because I also matter. Okay, and take a breath. Whew. Just feel into that energy in your body. At third chakra, it's a little more adult energy. And at the third chakra, more adult energy. We see ourselves. Like, sometimes I'm a disaster and I'm still afraid and I still doubt myself. And I'm also the hero of my own story, not the supporting character. Not the supporting character. We all get to play that character at times in our life. But if my story, my next chapter, what I want to create, I can be the flawed hero because all heroes are flawed. We are so willing to own our flaws. Yet particularly to my women folk here, it is so much harder for us to own our hero energy, our leadership energy. Yeah. So fabulous to be with you all today. Thank you for joining me in this third chakra, going through this assessment with me, and a little bit of tapping here for the third chakra. We have one more class. This is your today, tomorrow, the next day, your last chance to sign up for the training that I'm starting next week on the chakra intuitive portals and how we work deeply at each of the three chakras. I'm going to do 4 trainings again on chakras 1 through 4, but it really is for coaches, for therapists, for those who are thinking they are fascinated by human nature and they want to see how do we transform people through this lens of the chakra in much detail. That's what we'll be doing next week. So make sure you sign up for that. Thank you. Oh, my team put the link here in Zoom. We'll put it on there for YouTube as well. And thank you guys for being with me.